Good afternoon, one and all, and welcome aboard once again for the Sunset Safari. We are here in Kenya, and we're in the Mara Triangle, and what a beautiful scene this is, with an elephant moving through the plains with the Olololo escarpment in the background. You're watching Safari Live, and my name is Ralph Kirsten, and we've got Adrian on the camera. How's it, Adrian? Please don't forget to join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Please send us your questions and your comments, because we'd love for you to be involved in the largest game drive in the world. And we've just come down the Olololo escarpment from camp, and we thought we'd just stop and have a view out on this lovely elephant bull here. My plan for the afternoon is that I haven't really got a plan, and so from here I'm going to be heading down towards the swampy area, and I think we're going to try and catch up with the kitty cats, because I have a little secret to tell you, and that is that I was floating over the Mara Triangle earlier this morning, and I did have a little bird's eye view over the kitty cats that we saw yesterday afternoon, and it seems like they didn't move anywhere. So hopefully from this morning till now they might be in pretty much the same vicinity, so we might be able to go and catch up with them, see how those little cubs are doing. They were very young ones. I think there was 4 of them, and then there were 4 a little bit older than that, but I did see a few more lionesses with them, so that was quite exciting. And we floated just about 15 meters above them, and they were a little bit concerned about the hot air balloon, but other than that they're still in the same area, so I think we're going to see if we can catch up with them. Other than that, I don't really have a plan. The plan is to cover as much ground as possible until we find some wonderful scenarios such as this. I am now going to just keep on continuing down towards the swamp, but from the bottom of the escarpment I took a left turn towards the Olololo gate, and from there then I cut down a very large lugger, which is quite prominent, and this is the same lugger that this elephant is now moving up. So he is now going up almost in reverse of the route that I took, but it seems it's quite warm at the moment. It's probably mid 20 degrees centigrade and maybe 70 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see with the elephant flapping his ears a little bit, using that radiator and keeping himself cool. He's also been throwing quite a bit of mud over himself, and he's really just enjoying life, as solitary bulls do when they're out of must. They are some of the most relaxed and enjoyable animals to be in the presence of, and I really love watching bull elephants when they, particularly when they're not in must, because they are really happy-go-lucky, and whether you're on a vehicle or on foot, it's just wonderful to watch them. And I wonder if he's after some shade, or if he's maybe after a bit of a scratch. Let's see what he does next to that tree. Maybe he's after a bit of both, but I think he might have a little itch behind his ear there. You see how he's rubbing himself backwards and forwards, and that's always wonderful to watch. I love bull elephants. So everybody, what is the bush going to hold for us today? It's already started with a wonderful bull elephant, and I wonder what else it's going to throw at us. That's always the excitement. And so everybody, a little bit later, we've got the schools joining us, and we've also got Djuma joining us, but a little bit closer to home, we've got Brent, who's on the other half of the Kenyan safari. Let's hand you over on to him, and I'm sure he'd love to say hello.
Hello, hello, and welcome to a glorious afternoon in the Maasai Triangle. We are heading south at the moment. I think we might go look for some male lions around the crossings, see if the famous Scarface has decided to grace this side of the river with his presence. And hopefully there'll be some lady lions around as well. Now, I've been trying to show you guys Jackson's widow birds for a while, and I'm hoping there's one little marshy area on the way down that will provide us with some decent bird watching. Now, remember, this is coming to you 100% live from one of Africa's iconic wildernesses. And if you want to ask us any questions, hashtag Safari Live on whatever platform you are watching on. It'd be great to hear from you. And to start off today, I've got a question for all of you. Haha! Quiz day. I think it's a good day for a quiz. Now, the quiz I've got for you is, what antelope has become extinct in the Masai Mara in the last 30 years? Which antelope has become extinct in the Masai Mara for the last 30 years? Hashtag Safari Live if you know the answer. They are slowly moving back in towards the Mara from the Serengeti in Tanzania, but the top end of the Mara, and well, I haven't seen one, and I've driven a lot in the Mara, but apparently they have been locally extinct for about 30 years. Hashtag Safari Live if you know the answers. There we go, that's one to get the grey matter going. Remember, no cheating with the Google. That is cheating. You need to be honest with us and play the game fairly. Now, it sounds like that juvenile palm-nut vulture we saw a while ago is still around. Ralph saw it the other day, so maybe we'll have some luck along the river with the palm-nut vulture. There are only ever about 2 or 3 records of palm-nut vultures being seen in the Mara every year. Now, if you go 80 kilometers to the west of us, towards Lake Victoria, they're actually relatively common. And the palm-nut vultures are the fish eagle's biggest bane, and they're often harassing fish eagles and stealing their food from them. So not a true vulture, but definitely a really nice bird to see. Now, speaking of birds, it sounds like Rolf has found one that's head is shaped like a hammer.
And a hammerkop, indeed shaped like a hammer. Look at that head. Hammerkop, meaning hammerhead, direct translation from Afrikaans. Now, this individual, I was wondering if he's landed here just in front of us with a little bit of water that's running down the 2-track. I was just waiting to see whether he's after food or if he's going to be collecting nesting material. You can see there from the grass moving in front of him, it is a little bit gusty at the moment. Oh, and there he goes, flying straight at us, and off he goes. All right, that was great. So, little stop there with a hammerkop. They're fascinating birds, but we're on a very wet road here, nice, wet and slippery, and I took the chance, maybe we're going to get stuck, but who cares? Once more, you do know that I'm not scared of that. And there has been a lovely rain. Last night we got showered upon, luckily just after drive. So we battened down the hatches at camp, and it was a wonderful evening's worth of rain. So I'm sure you can see along the road now, quite wet. And as we head down towards the swampy area, when I was floating over this morning, it was really evident that it's filled up quite nicely with water. So it seems not only has the swampy area filled up a little bit with water, the ground water is obviously filled up a bit, and that has also affected the Mara River towards Talek. When Brent was over there, it seemed the Talek River broke its banks as well. So there's been a very good dousing of rain, and everybody's enjoying it. I'm sure the vegetation's going to enjoy it, and the animals will love it as well. Lots of water around always makes for a very good, healthy environment, and so that is wonderful. Now I just need to go in the same line as these tracks because I can't go out of them, so we'll just keep up the momentum and hopefully not get stuck. But if we do, we've got a spade and we'll dig ourselves out of it and have some fun while we're doing it. Right, I wonder if there's going to be some black rhino that poke their noses out of the thickets here. It's quite an enjoyable experience driving on this wet stuff. Sometimes you can almost drive sideways, and that's how, even with the differential lock engaged. And so I really enjoy driving through this mud. But speaking of driving, and while we continue on through the mud like this, let's head you on over to Brent, who I think is driving in a little bit of an easier area.
Well, indeed, I'm still on the main road, so no mud for me to deal with. And as I said, we're going to crack on down the edge of the Shini drainage and make our way down towards Punda, which basically means water of the zebra. And when the zebra migration is here, it's a favorite spot for the zebras to drink, and also a good spot for rhinos. And it sounds like we have a few answers in for the quiz. Oh, interesting one. Tony says red duiker, but unfortunately not. Red duiker do occur in some of the forested patches up along the escarpment still. So they are there, there just are very few of them because of the forest patches. So, but a very good guess there, Tony. The Lizard King is a little bit wrong geographically. Springbok have never occurred in the Masai Mara. They are endemic to South Central Africa, South Africa, Namibia, Botswana. So unfortunately, no springbok here. Faisal and Aaron are spot on. It is indeed the greater kudu. Now, what happened is from about the 1950s, there was a huge pressure on the escarpment, and there was a lot of logging, and a lot of the acacia belts, which was just below the forested area, was also removed. And with the removal of that acacia belt, it left very little for the greater kudu to eat, and they slowly became extinct locally. Now, they still occur in the Serengeti, and I have heard that they are slowly extending their range back up towards Kenya. So it would be very exciting if we're down on the border one day and spot a greater kudu. Now, of course, there are two species of kudu that occur in Kenya, the greater kudu and the lesser kudu. The lesser kudu, however, is more of an arid species, so we don't get them in the Mara, but not too far to the east of here, you do get greater kudu extending Tsavo, Samburu, all the way up to Turkana. Very pretty antelope, the lesser kudu. Now, since we're on kudus, and I've already told you too, who can tell me how many traphalagid, so that's spiral horned antelope, occur in Kenya? So I've given you two. Now normally I ask for Africa, so there's a little sneaky one in there, and no cheating on the Google again. How many of the traphalagid family, so the same family as kudu and inyala, how many of the traphalagid, the spiral horned antelopes, occur in Kenya? Hashtag Safari Live if you know the answer. While you ponder the spiral horned antelopes of East Africa, let's go see what Ralph is up to the north of us.
Well, Brent, I'm still trying just to not get stuck for the minute, heading down towards the swampy area, and nice conversation started there about the tragelaphene species. Something about the kudu that I find very interesting. Well, first and foremost, I noticed that I didn't see any around the Mara, which I thought quite interesting, and I never knew why. And I'd like for Brent to be able to tell us why they have sort of dwindled, but my thinking is maybe it's because the thicket areas and the forested or wooded zones are maybe dwindling, and so maybe the kudu dwindling as a result of that? It's quite an interesting topic, that, and I wonder what the answer is. But I haven't been around the Mara long enough to know the answer. But something very interesting about kudu that I find is that they're not really easily contained, because they can clear a 3-meter game fence with a 5 even with that hefty size of theirs. They're quite slow when they run, and they can get hammered by lions because of it, but they can clear a 3-meter fence with a 2-step run up, and I've witnessed it many times, and they're even better jumpers than a kudu. So obviously quite hazardous around main roads and things when they clear these fences at night, because they can't be contained very easily, and if they do want to cross those fences, it's pretty easy for them just to wing over the fence. And so, you know, the legalities of wildlife, I'm not sure about the environmental law in Kenya, but I'm pretty sure that it's similar to that of South Africa. And when we were studying conservation, we studied environmental law as well, because we could obviously become peace officers or rangers that would then have to be enforcing the law of the environmental law. And the thing with wildlife is that you need to sufficiently contain it to be able to own it, because wildlife cannot be owned unless you sufficiently contain it. So in other words, if you've got a 3-meter fence that eland and kudu are clearing, and they're found outside of your game reserve, they can literally be contained by somebody else, and ownership then transferred to somebody else. There is some small legalities around that, but if you had to, for instance, catch that kudu on the road and put him in the back of your car, you could probably get away with actually claiming ownership of that animal, but then you would have to contain it sufficiently to be able to claim the ownership. That's the reason why leopards, warthog, jackals, and a range of other animals that will go under fences and that are not very easily contained and not very easily claimed ownership of as well. So very interesting topic that, and I'm sure there'll be other people that could add their thoughts on it as well, but yeah, it's quite difficult for people to actually claim the ownership of those animals, especially if they're clearing the fence over the top, underneath, whatever you like. So we're heading now, getting a little bit closer to the swamp, and I'm pretty sure that something is going to be very exciting down there. But speaking of exciting things, I think Brent has got an exciting little bird for you.
Well, look at that. Wait for it. There we go. And again. No, there we go. So that is a Jackson's widow bird male displaying to impress the females. So the Jackson's widow bird is got a very relatively small distribution around Kenya and Tanzania, and it is one of my favorite birds in the Mara, just because of that spectacular hopping display that the male does out of long grass to try impress the ladies. So you can find them in flocks of up to 100, and with multiple males in amongst the flock. But it's the male who does the best jumping display who wins the affections of the ladies. And there the ladies are. They're quite dull, and you can see them all just fluttering around. Different males hovering about, trying to get friendly. So there we go, Jackson's widow birds. And it's quite nice. We said we were going to look for them, and it's one of the reasons I made my way to this area. Oh, there we go. There's a bit of a fight going on there now. There's some males trying to out-display each other amongst the females. Isn't that beautiful? Now, who's going to hop? And that is very, very cool. And it's quite nice to get to see them moving around like this. They're one of the more difficult birds to get on camera because they do like these long grass areas, but it's quite nice to find a very, very active patch of Jacksons. Oh, there's some more males flying in from outside. Jamie Animation says they do have incredible tails, they do. And our original male, who's doing all the jumping out of the grass, is still jumping out of the grass in the same position. And it seems like it's been working because a lot of the females have now moved around that area. There he is, at the back next to the termite mound, doing his hoppity hop. Look at me. Look at me. I'm really pretty. Look at me. Well, his display seems to be working as the flock moves closer to him, and he was right on the peripheries in the beginning. It is definitely one of the stranger sort of mating displays amongst birds. Oh, and off they go. That's so wonderful. Whoop, and off they go. Mafuta says, thanks Brent, I've never seen this before. My pleasure. No, the Jacksons, that's why they're my favorite widow bird in the Mara. It is that hopping display that the males do that is just too wonderful. Now Joy is wondering, does one male mate with all the females or many males? It'll be many males, and sometimes a female will mate with up to 2 or 3 males. So it's probably quite difficult to get paternity out of it. Oh, we've got some more widows coming up here. Is he going to land, or is he going to keep flying? It's a fan-tailed widow with the red, very prominent red shoulder. Nice camera work, Craig. There he goes. So the fantails you don't often see in as big of flocks as the Jacksons, the yellow-mantled, and the red-throated or red-collared. But the biggest flocks that you see in the Mara are definitely the Jacksons. So there we go. I know Fuzzman Sparkles has been on at me about a yellow bishop, so I'm keeping my eye open for a yellow bishop today. And quite a lot of people get them confused between the yellow-mantled widow, but the yellow-mantled widow has got that very prominent long tail that the yellow bishops don't have, but they both have that very distinctive display where they puff up their back, the mantle, and get a really good fluff on to impress the ladies. Okay, wonder what wonderful birds are next. Lily says you can only think of 3 trafalgarids that occur in Kenya. I'm afraid there are a bit more. Let me just do it in my head quickly. 5, 6, actually 6. There are 6 that occur in Kenya. There we go. Tony said 6. It is the bushbuck, the eland, greater kudu, lesser kudu, bongo, and sitatunga. They're your 6 that occur in East Africa. No! Come back here! Back, bird! Don't you dare try escape me. It's another widow. We're going for the widows today. There we go. He's turned around. A very highly mobile red collared. Let's see if he lands, Craig. He is going to land. Let's see if we can get all the widow species in the Mara today. Interspersed with some lions, of course. You got him there, just a safety on there. Alright, one to the left. There he is, there. Now that is very, very interesting. So that is the first time I've seen a red-collared widow with a full red face here. Normally, they only have the slight little red throat. So that's very interesting. That means we get both of the color variations, but that's the first time I've seen that color variation in the Mara. So normally it's just the one with a it looks like it's had its throat split. Let me try from the shade. So that's very, very interesting. There, put it there for you, Craig. So you get two different color morphs, and we normally see the Tropicus color morph, and today it's the first time I've seen the Sahelica color morph. So very, very cool. See, if you start looking closely, you never know what you're going to find next. Okay, we're going to keep moving and see what else we can find. While we do that, let's see how Ralph's mission towards the Samaki swamp is going.
Thanks, Brent. And it seems you had some good luck with the birds. Well, we've had as well. We had a Bateleur eagle that came down into the grass, and it seemed like it caught something, but the grass was too long to see, and so we were trying to just see through the grass and see what the Bateleur had got, and then this vulture came down and tried to steal it from him. So off the Bateleur flew with its prey in its talons, but the vulture was right on its tail, and eventually the Bateleur dropped it, and now this vulture has gone down and obviously stolen whatever the Bateleur had caught.
I've seen where the Bateleur went.
And so we're just trying to see exactly what it was that it caught. Now, I don't know if you know, but Bateleur is Old French for tightrope walker. And it's because they've got such a short tail that they do sway from side to side a lot, because they don't have that very obvious rudder that a lot of the other raptors have. So there was a suggested change of name of the Bateleur to the short-tailed eagle, but thankfully the name Bateleur stuck, and so they kept that. But wonderful scene here once more. We've got a lot of animals in close proximity to us, but quite fascinating what's happening, or what has happened between this vulture and the Bateleur. Seems like he keeps looking up like he's worried that somebody else is going to come and do exactly what he did. Kleptoparasite, we should call him. And that's what you call animals that steal other animals' food. And there you can see it definitely is something that he's going to want to feed on, but I think he's quite concerned about what's going to come down and try and steal it from him. There in the background we've got some Kangoni and also some zebra, and an impala off in the corner there as well. And then as we come a little bit closer to us, we've got a very big herd of elephants that is just moving through, but there's a beautiful bull elephant here very close to us, and so he's also got half a tail. So the mystery of the missing tails continues, and we still see lots of them with wounds like this. He obviously was lucky enough that he's been able to keep a little bit of a stump, but that still says to me that happened to him when he was quite young, and so that little bit of growth now has come later in his life, because you can see there it's very well healed over. So we had another angle, I think it was from David, that it might be rough play between youngsters, but I'm not convinced, because I've watched hundreds of thousands of elephants in my life, and I've never seen youngsters pulling each other's tails off or anything like that. And my only thinking is here in the Mara is that there's a very big prevalence of large animal eating crocodiles. So I'm still leaning towards that, but I don't have any evidence, so any theory is still worth looking into. So if I see youngsters playing now, I'm going to watch with intent, because I want to see if any of them actually bite or grab on and pull each other's tails off. But it's definitely happening to the youngsters. And there's no adults with fresh wounds. And sorry if I'm hopping on about this subject, but it is still a mystery, and I think it's still worth visiting and continuing on that subject. But this bull seems quite content, feeding in the grass just on the other side of this little river line. It's a small stream that heads down all the way into the Mara River, and off to our right, we also have a lot more elephants that are happily grazing along. There's a couple of youngsters as well, a little bit further behind us. So it seems there's lots of comments coming through that people are thinking it's lions. Yeah, I don't know. Folks, I can't disprove you, so I can't say that you're wrong at all. My feeling is, however, is that it seems these lions are quite content hunting warthogs during this period when there is a lot of elephants in the area, and then obviously when the migration comes, then yes, they'll get onto the wildebeest and the zebra. I'm not convinced that it's lions that are indeed attacking the elephants, because they seem like they're even scared to go for buffalo. So yeah, but as I say, I'm not saying that you're wrong. That's definitely not what I'm saying. I'm just I'm leaning towards the crocodiles, but we need to prove it, and so I'm going to try my best to continue on that line. And whenever I see any elephants near to the river, I'm going to watch them with intent to see if the crocodiles do show any interest. And if any of those youngsters get separated a little bit near the river, I'm going to watch with even more intent, and we'll see what happens with them. But now, Faisal, you're wondering if it could be some kind of parasite that's causing it. Well, Faisal, I don't know of any kind of sickness that elephants are afflicted that will affect their tail. But once again, that would be another line to look into. So all the possibilities are open, and I'm just saying from my personal side, I'm still thinking crocodile is the most likely of all of them, but that's not proven. So look at that youngster also relaxing just with the 1 foot off the ground there. That's a very relaxed youngster there, just enjoying a little bit of a break on his legs. There, he swapped to the other side. And so if any of the viewers are thinking of any angle as to why these elephants are losing their tails as youngsters, because until we find an adult with a fresh wound, it's only the youngsters that it's happening to for now. So I think let's continue on this topic, but let's head on over to Brent and see what he thinks why these elephants are losing their tails, but mostly as youngsters.
Well, Rolf says crocodiles. I think there's a possibility crocodiles could definitely have nipped a few of the elephants' tails, but I'm going to go with hyenas, just the buffalo. So I think if an elephant wanders a little bit too far from mom and the herd, the hyenas would definitely take that opportunity to try get in there, so to speak. But I don't know. It doesn't look, I agree with Rolf, it doesn't look like a parasite or a bacteria that's causing the baby elephants to lose their tails. It looks like I would go with hyenas, and that's just because of the sheer number of hyenas that are here. And as we've seen with elephants giving birth here, the females are often a little bit away from the rest of the herd. So in that first day or so, they can be quite vulnerable. So actually, the one spot where we saw an elephant birth was just down here. And then, of course, there was that very sad occasion with Jamie where that little baby didn't make it. But the one down here did make it, which was quite exciting. But that was in the early days. We were still in Chiku. Now, we're going to head down out of the grasses here now that we've found the widows. We've got a few more widows and bishops to get, but they tend to be in a slightly different area, a slightly wetter area, closer to the river, so we're going to meander down towards there. We're actually going to go past the spot where during our all-nighters, I was following the lions, the Mara River Pride here, and it was quite frustrating because I could hear pearls fishing hour calling and calling, and we just couldn't see it. And I think there's actually probably quite a few pairs of poles in this top forest area. But unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to access the river in this forested area. So I've heard them calling on quite a few different occasions in a couple of different spots along here. But unfortunately, we haven't managed to see them just yet. But it seems like Rolf is playing with pachyderms this afternoon.
Yes, and why wouldn't you? I mean, these elephants are fascinating, and there's young and old, and males and females, and so it's a wonderful little stop, this. And the little babies were suckling from mommy a minute ago, and we had some of the young males also doing a bit of argy-bargy once more, clashing tusks and shoving each other. Now, take care. You want to know why are male and female elephants' foreheads different? Well, it's just down to the males being a lot more sort of pronounced. So their skulls are a little bit more rounded, whereas the females are a little bit more indented, if I can say that. It's not as proud, and the males, obviously, like a lot of the animals, they do need to be able to fight a lot between each other. So very often their heads are a lot bigger than the females, and that's one of the ways that you can sex them. But it's definitely down to them having territorial, well, elephants aren't territorial, but dominance battles between males, and so they do fill out a bit more. They've got more testosterone than the females do, and so you can see the difference when you look at hyenas, where the females have got 3 times more the testosterone than the males. They actually look a lot prouder and filled out more than the males do. So I think it all comes down to testosterone, and in the development of an individual, how much testosterone you have in your body does also then affect the largesse of your bones and your muscles, etc. So it really does make an effect, and that's my theory on it. But I'm pretty sure that is the reason why a lot more proud on the males, both in the bones and obviously in the whole body structure. Same with lions, same with leopard, and so it's a lot down to the amount of testosterone. But there's not too much testosterone flowing around here at the moment. Mostly everybody is very tranquil, just feeding, and the little youngsters also trying and copying the other adults. And the little baby, the small one there that's sort of facing towards us, looks like he was getting a couple of lessons from his older sibling just next to him. You very often find them in just almost that whole line. Look at that. You can actually almost age them from that. This youngster that's closest to us with the stick, he's probably at around 2 years old, where the one next to him probably between 3 and 4, and the one then to the right of that's an older teenager, so probably early 20s, and then the bigger one behind it, and that's a fully grown adult. So nice to see the different age groups. And look at the youngsters playing with a stick. Debbie, thank you for your comment saying that it looks so beautiful here and that we are so lucky. Debbie, I agree 100% with you. This is one of the most beautiful wildernesses that is left on the planet. We are very lucky to be here watching elephants in the Masai Mara and in the Mara Triangle in specific, and it is an amazing privilege to be able to be here, and I'm just glad that I'm able to to have so many viewers join us wherever you are in the world, and at least we can, portray this privilege that we have of watching wild animals in such a beautiful wilderness, looking over towards the Mara River there in the background. And look at these males, they've gone back to their game of argy-bargy. A very important play, this. It's very much like the little cubs of the lions, where they play and for instance Tandi's little cub, chasing the tails of the adults, and as they get a little bit older they start tackling each other and also play fighting. It's very important, that play time, learning those skills for when later in life when it really matters. They need to have done it a lot. It helps build up muscle memory. And so look how wrinkly their skin is. It's not as wrinkly as an adult. But speaking of wrinkly skin, let's send you on over to Brent, who's not got a wrinkly skinned animal, but a scaly animal.
Yes, indeed. An armor-plated scaly animal, the Nile crocodile. Quite a big one, probably just under 4 meters, 3.5 meters. Now, it is a male. Now, quite a lot of people have trouble telling the difference between male and female crocodiles. Now, the trick is to look at the neck and the head. So if you see the neck, you can see how thick the neck is, and that is to protect them while they are fighting for females during the breeding season. So the males generally have a much bigger and thicker head and neck. Now, can you believe, those of you who live in Florida, that there is an exotic population of escaped Nile crocodiles cruising the Everglades? They are trying to catch and remove them. Unfortunately, there has been no evidence of breeding amongst that Nile crocodile, the escaped Nile crocodile population in Florida. Because if there were, I'm afraid the gators might be in trouble. So crocodiles much bigger and much more aggressive, and not necessarily sometimes bigger in length, but heavier and more robust. And one of the other bigger problems, and there hasn't been any proof that there is the possibility of crossbreeding with the endangered American crocodile. So there is the possibility that it could taint the genetic line. Unlikely, but the bigger concern is that crocodiles, unlike alligators, eat a lot of people. And there are about 200 to 250 reported human deaths by crocodile in Africa a year. They're probably closer to 500, 600 deaths, and a lot of those deaths will go unreported because they occur in very rural areas of Africa. Now, a lot of you might have heard this story before, but if you are new to Safari Live in the last probably year and a half or so, I don't think I've told this story. It's slightly humorous, and it's not humorous as well. So, as many of you know, I worked in southern Tanzania for quite a long time, and I took over a hunting concession with some other people, and we converted it into walking safaris. And the staff we inherited with the concession were all ex-hunting camp staff, and they tend to do things a little bit differently. So trying to get guys to wear like neat and tidy uniforms, or little challenges you get when you're taking over a pre-existing system. And one of the things that used to drive me absolutely batty was as soon as I sat down for dinner or for lunch or for breakfast with the guests, one of the maintenance guys or mechanics, like literally, oh, that's a new bird from... No, it's not. I thought I saw something new, but it's not. There's some hippopotamus and a yellow-billed stork and an Egyptian goose. Now, here we go. So we only used to operate the camp during the dry season, and the Luego River, for most parts, used to become very, very shallow, only about knee deep. So what's that on me? About just under a meter, less than a meter deep. And so during the hunting camp days, everyone, all the staff, you just used to bathe in the shallows of the river. But I was worried about crocodiles. I have a very, very strong respect for crocodiles, having worked with them quite a lot in Zambia. And I built showers and everything for the staff. But a lot of the old staff, there we go, there's a croc coming upstream. Probably just like it did to poor Eddie. Now, Eddie was one of the waiters, and he decided he did not need to use the showers. He'd been bathing in this river for 4 years, and it was fine. But we'll get to Eddie shortly. So one of the other problems was that, so as I was sitting for dinner, Majaliwa, who was in charge of the water and hot water for the camps and everything, was done on fires and stuff like that. And Majaliwa, you could give him the best uniform in the world, and within a week it was full of holes and whatnot. And Majaliwa basically used to walk up to the dinner table and go, problem, problem, problem. So we'd be like, Majaliwa. So eventually we had a meeting this very day. I had a meeting with the staff. I was like, guys, unless it is an emergency, you can wait till I've finished dinner or whatnot, and I'm in the kitchen at the back of the house, or you can tell me during the meeting, but not as it happens if it's not something that is urgent and that needs to be fixed right now. So the same day we had this meeting, I was sitting down to dinner with the guests, and we had our starters, and I was having my filet, and I saw Majaliwa just on the edge of the lantern light, and also said that if anyone disturbs, they were going to be severely punished. And so Majaliwa is sort of dancing on the edge of the lantern light, and I can see he really wants to tell me something. And I was like, I've just had this meeting. I'm going to finish my. So I took a mouthful of steak, ate it, had some veggies, and then he started sort of dancing even more. So I said, okay, I better go see what he wants. And so as I walked away from the table, Bona Eddie has been eaten by the crocodile. When? Not now, he is still fighting the crocodile in the river. So I ran to my tent, grabbed my rifle, I got there. Ooh, hippos coming downstream. Here we go. Hello, hippos. So I grabbed my rifle, ran to the staff village, which was about 200 meters away, and there was Eddie being held by one arm by two of the staff. And he was lucky, there was a relatively small crocodile, only about 6 or 7 feet, attached to his other arm. And so I waded into the water, put my rifle against the crocodile's head to make sure I didn't shoot Eddie's arm off, because I was carrying a very large caliber rifle, a 458 lot, and I shot the crocodile. And then had to administer first aid and stitch up Eddie, and then send him off to the hospital the next day. But yes, poor Eddie, after not listening. Oh, a little bit of an argument there, hippopotamus. Now, while I was in Tanzania, these were probably the most dangerous animals we had to face on a daily basis, because that river during the dry season became, as I said, sort of knee deep, ankle deep. So there was very few spots for the hippos to hide. And so we used to find them in the forests, under trees, all over. So they were one of the biggest dangers we had while on walking safaris, was good old kiboko, or as he is referred to by some old people, Satan's pig. But we're going to go away from Satan's pig to one of my favorite animals, the elephant, with Ralph.
Thanks, Brent, and everybody. We've just decided to stay here. Firstly, because the elephants have actually just blocked us a little bit from crossing this little lugger, but there's so much happening around us that it's really interesting to just sit and watch them anyway. We've got a big bull there that you're busy following now. We've got little babies that are wrestling with each other. We've also got a little bit of older youngsters that are pushing and shoving, and there's one a little bit behind us that's just drinking. So they're all around us, and it's wonderful to be in the middle of them. Brent's got lovely stories there about crocodiles and his staff members. It's always nice to relay those stories that we as guides experience in our bush wanderings. It's always lovely. Once I watched a very big bull elephant in the Namib desert. His name was Voortrekker, and he's still walking around there. He's the dominant bull in a particular area of the Namib desert. But once, those elephants, it's quite interesting that they don't really push trees over. It's almost like they understand that the resources of trees are very low there, and so they're not very destructive. And I put it down to that, as we've got quite a lot coming in here. But I watched Voortrekker once when he was in must, and the females were not being very receptive to him, as they sometimes can be. It's up to them as well. They also need to accept the male for copulation and so on. And so they weren't being very receptive. So he was very frustrated. And I saw him push over a massive mopani tree with very little effort. And it seemed like it was totally out of frustration. But with two pushes and this massive crack, and right next to us a huge tree just got pushed over. It was really a show of power and aggression. But the females still were not receptive even after his big show. You see, this one has got only one tusk. I wonder what happened to the other one, whether it's broken or... There we see them putting the water right in the back of the throat. Top Mod, you want to know how often do elephants come into must? It's pretty much fortnightly, so it can be mostly twice a month, but sometimes once a month. And so that's the reason that drives the males to go and search for the breeding herds. Otherwise they would not even bother, and then you would obviously have a dwindling elephant population. So it all works out in the end. They do wander off on their own and quite happy-go-lucky, but then they get that very high levels of testosterone that drives them back towards the herds and searching for females. Now, Spaz, you want to know at what age do the males start fighting for females' attention? It's actually quite similar to humans, where around 18 years of age they do start getting the real sexual desire, but in normal natural populations they won't really be able to get any females because the other males are way more bigger and stronger and dominant than them. So it's normally once they get to about the age of 25 and older that they then can obviously be quite dominant and press for some females. Now look at that little youngster there, still obviously quite unsure of how to use its trunk properly, but looks like it's getting the desired results, which means that it's maybe just over a year old, because that's more or less the time when they are actually able to use it. Now we are in quite close proximity to these elephants, and they're literally just filing just past us, but we're in no danger because we haven't presented any danger to them. It's very clear and open here, and I'm talking with a nice tone towards these animals, but they are just filing past us, which is lovely. And look at this little baby, look at the little one. It's coming very close to us. That is so cute. And they've got their escape routes. There's no reason for them to cause any problems with us. We're not causing any problems to them. So we can just enjoy the same space and everybody's happy. And they go off past us. Wow, that was wonderful. Okay. And so we've still got lots of elephants here. Now, Ravinda, you want to know, while mating, are the females able to take the male's weight? Ravinda, it's quite a stressful affair when elephants do mate. Yes, they do withstand the weight, obviously, of the front quarters. So they do have to climb up on the female with the front legs, but the males do hold most of their weight on the back legs. But yeah, it's quite an affair, that the actual copulation of elephants. It's wonderful to watch, obviously, from a natural perspective, but it is quite a stressful thing, not only for the female, but she's quite receptive to it. Obviously, she needs to be, otherwise she can just walk away from the male. But normally the rest of the herd does get away from that particular area when that starts happening. But I've seen it quite a few times in my life. It's not something that everybody gets to see, but I've spent a very large amount of time around elephants for a little over 4 years, and that's all I did was follow the desert elephants on foot, as well as on a vehicle, but predominantly on foot, taking guests to view those very special herds there. And also then in Botswana and Zimbabwe and around South Africa as well. So my experience with elephants is probably one of the more, or the animals that I've spent one of the most times with, or the largest amount of time with. So I feel a little bit bigger affinity with elephants than with a lot of the other animals, just purely down to the time I've spent with them. So I'm quite comfortable around them because I do believe I can read their body language, their behavior. But elephants always surprise you because of their intelligence. So you can never get blasé with them. They can change almost as quickly as humans can, emotionally and also in personality. So they have that little side to them that you do need to be careful of. But other than that, if you respect a few rules, you generally are pretty safe. So I think I'm going to start up and head on a little bit, but while we do that, let's head you on over to Brent and see how he's getting on.
Well, no big cats yet, but we have a very big waterbuck bull right next to us. Hello, mister. Now, as you would have seen in the video that Taylor put out, slightly different coloration from the common waterbuck. Now, on the eastern side of Kenya, we also have common waterbuck. So Savo, up towards Samburu, that area is all common waterbuck. Whereas the Dafasa waterbuck occurs west from here into Uganda and also down into Zambia and into the Congo. And lying around the water. Now, of course, there's a lovely old Zulu fable about why waterbuck can utilize water. And it goes that one day the waterbuck was wandering along the river's edge and found a crocodile that had got stuck under a tree that had fallen onto the bank. And the crocodile said to the waterbuck, "Oh, waterbuck, with your great wide horns, please save me, please save my life, and lift the blog off my back." And the waterbuck said, "No, hang on here, crocodile. Every time I try to go in the water, you eat me, and you eat my family, so I'm not helping you." So the waterbuck and the crocodile made a deal that if the waterbuck ever entered the water, it would be safe from the crocodile's attacks. Of course, that is a nice story. The crocodile will still eat the waterbuck, but that is an old Zulu fable. And you can see ruminating quite happily. Probably not quite nice and cool there next to the water. There's a nice breeze keeping the flies off him for the moment. And there's always a lot of waterbuck in this area. And there's another old wives. Francis from Israel is saying, "I love their noses." Yes, the heart-shaped nose of the waterbuck. But there's another old wives' tales that lions don't like waterbuck meat. Now, waterbuck, oh, there's a little one. was a couple of little ones. Waterbuck have a gland that's just behind their shoulder that excretes a very oily, smelly substance, and they'll actually spread it over their skin. It gives them sort of a waterproof sheen, and that's actually where they get the name waterbuck, not from going in the water, but they actually have a sort of waterproof sheen. Now, that gland can taint the meat and make it quite smelly, so there's an old wives' tale that lions don't eat waterbuck, which is completely untrue. I've seen lions eat waterbuck out of this very group in this very spot, so yes, it is a nice story. I've seen cheetah eat waterbuck, leopard eat waterbuck, so it is a bit of an old wives' tale. Now, the interesting thing about a waterbuck and that little coating of oil, or that oily substance they get over their skin, is that waterbuck has a very different fur to other antelope. So the antelope that has the closest fur structure to the waterbuck is actually oryx, or gemsbok, or bisa oryx in East Africa. So they have quills that are actually very closely designed and similarly designed to what a porcupine's quill is. It's obviously not nearly as hard, and it's hollow. Now, in waterbuck, it aids them when it comes to creating that sort of little bit of waterproofing over them. And in the oryx, which is an arid species, it enables them to not lose as much water, so they don't need to drink as much water. So very interesting, and the fact that two animals have a very similar designed fur, it's actually a quill, that is used for two very different reasons, because one lives in a very wet area and one in a very dry area. Okay, now we are heading in towards musketeer territory. And hoping we're going to find some lions down the road. Top Mod is wondering, why are the waterbuck's horns so prominent? Is it only for defense, or is it... It's not for defense, actually. Well, I suppose it is to a degree. They will sometimes utilize their horns for defense but it's actually more for fighting for females. Now, there we go. And you see that termite mound right at the distance in the edge of the lugger there, Craig. So if you zoom to the left slightly, there we go. Okay. So zoom, 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 zoom a little bit to the right. Aha. What have we there? And it looks like it's caught something. That is very interesting. Definitely looks like it's got something. From where it is, let's just stay on it, sorry, Kruger. I just want to try and get an ID. From where it is sitting, it's probably, I would expect to have caught maybe a water monitor. Now look at the legs, and you can see it's feathered all the way down. So I do know which one this is, but the question is, do you? So this is one for our serious birders out there. Do you know what bird that is? Aha! It is a very nice bird. We do see them occasionally in the Mara, but not too often. And it is, I'll give you a bit of a hint, it is not an adult, it's a juvenile. So let's see who can figure that out. Oh, it's jumped up a bit high there, Craig. I think let's give everyone one last better look. There we go. So it is a true eagle, but it is a juvenile. You can see the feathers all the way down to the feet. And whatever it's got there seems to be maybe giving it a bit of a problem. Could be a little water monitor. It's most likely just from the area that it's in. Oh, it seems like I might have caught you. Safari Wild Man says auger buzzard. It's not a buzzard, it is an eagle. So it is not an auger buzzard, but that an auger buzzard juvenile would look quite similar to that. But it is not a juvenile auger buzzard. ginger. It is unfortunately not a juvenile fish eagle. Now, just for the juvenile auger buzzard, it would be far more white in the chest. It wouldn't have the reddish coloration that that one has got. Top Mud says a red-tailed eagle. Unfortunately, we don't have any red-tailed eagles here. The closest we would do is have a red-tailed buzzard, but they are forest species that occur generally. They do occur in Kenya, but only in the Nyakweri forests and the forests around Mount Kenya, and then through to the Congo Basin. So it's not a red-tailed buzzard. Oh, some of the birders are going to be kicking themselves. Oh, tawny eagle, that's also incorrect. Oh, dearie me, have I finally managed to catch you guys? Nick, no, it's not a booted eagle. Ha ha! Victory, I've caught you out. Crystal, if it was a golden eagle, I would be doing a dance for joy on the front of the bonnet, because that is a very rare vagrant to Africa. Rebecca, Marshall Eagle, no, I really think I've got you, and a lot of you are going to kick yourselves when I tell you what it is. Oh, it's on the flight. Now it's about to land. There we go. Oh, Lily says she has no idea. I'm going to tell you soon, Lily, so don't worry. There we go. Now you can see it more clearly. And look, and once I tell you, you're going to be very, very sorry. I think it's actually quite a few of your favorite birds, and we see them quite often on Djuma. Steppe eagle, unfortunately not. So it is a juvenile resident eagle. It is not one of the migrant eagles. It lives in this area permanently, but this is a juvenile. The adults, Austin crowned eagle. I think eventually, once we've gone through all the eagles, we might get there. No, it's not a crowned eagle. Crowned eagles are massive and very, very distinct. Joy, no, it is not a Wahlberg's eagle. As I say, it's a juvenile of an eagle you see quite often on Djuma that is very, very striking. Oh no, a brown snake eagle is not correct. See, it's a true eagle. It's got feathers all the way down to its feet. A snake eagle does not, and a brown snake eagle has got a very distinct yellow eye, and it's a very distinct way of sitting. So it's not a snake eagle. So you can rule out all snake eagles. As I said, it's a true eagle. It's an aquila eagle. Jane says a batelier. Unfortunately not, Jane. Batelier is a type of snake eagle. Where are all my birders today? Where's Raisa? Raisa definitely should know this. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys ponder it a bit more. You should have some screenshots. If you've got a bird book at home, open it up, have a look carefully. It is a juvenile. A juvenile. That's the only clue I'm giving for now. Ah! Well, I was looking for lions. It seems Rolf has beaten me, but at least I got to beat you with the bird.
Thanks, Brent. Well, would you know it, we have found 3 male lions lying up. Yep, you guessed it, sleeping in the shade. And it looks like this is the Chitwa Watembo boys. And there, one of them has been ever so kind as to roll on his back and show us his leg. So at least we do get to see a little bit more of them, other than just the tawny colour in the grass. And off to the right there, you've got, looks like a skull of a hippo. Obviously quite an old one. That's not going to have eaten, or these lions wouldn't have eaten that any time recently, so that's quite an old one there. But nice to see that the Chitwa Watembo boys are around. At least now we know where they are. And one very obliging with his leg poking up in the air there. So, oh, there we've got a big stretch and a roll over. So it's still fascinating to me to see how many lions we find in such close proximity here in the Masai Mara. I've never actually seen so many lions in such a small space in my entire life, and so that's one of the big draw cards and the attractions here in the Masai Mara, because normally there's not as much resource available, and I think mainly due to the fact of the migrations with the wildebeest and zebra and gazelle and so much food around, that does make it possible for there to be a lot of very big and apex predators. Most other places, the territories are much larger, and I'm still also fascinated that there's not more conflict between these lions, because they're sharing very close space to each other. So, but it seems like they're all content in a very similar area, and I'm putting it down to there being a very large availability of resource. In terms of food, and lots of water as well. But I don't think I'm going to hang around here for too long, because I don't think that that's going to change much, except for the odd tail flick and maybe a bit of a rollover. But at least we've been able to spot them, albeit sleeping up in the shade. Alright, I think it's time to make our way. Let's start up and see if we can maybe go and find those females with the cubs. That might be a nice thing for us to do. But nice to see these Chitwa Watemba boys. And his leg hasn't moved in the last half an hour. Take care. You want to know how long before those bones decompose and turn to dust? It can take quite a few years for that to actually happen, and it depends on the conditions or the environment as well. I've seen in Namibia, when it's very hot and can be quite windy as well, it obviously degrades a lot quicker there, because you've got very hot temperatures during the day and very cold temperatures at night, below freezing, sometimes even in summer. So you can have a 40-degree, and I'm talking centigrade, difference in temperature daily. So that obviously assists in really breaking down those that calcium in the bone quite quickly, and very often I've come across bones in the desert that are, as you touch it, they start to crumble, and that's after a couple of years only. So out here where the conditions are a little bit more moderate, I would say anything between 5 and 10 years that can start to break down. It also depends on what insects and hyenas and all sorts are accessing that. Some birds also do eat bone, like the lammergeier or the bearded vulture, but a very special and very rare kind of bird. That what they do is, and we were chatting about it on Twitter with a couple of the viewers as well the other day when I saw the palm nut vulture and the ground hornbills. What they do is they take bones, but I think that hippo bone would be a little bit large for them. But what they do is they take the bone up into the sky and they drop it on the rocks, and then that enables them to break it into small little pieces. They primarily after the marrow on the inside of the bone, which is very nutritious, but they'll also eat fragments of bone. So those birds would do that, but we don't unfortunately have any of them here, and there's only very small pockets of lammergeier, which is an old South African word, lammergeier or bearded vultures, left, and some only in the areas of the Drakensberg in South Africa and Lesotho. That's where there's quite a healthy population, if in a small area, but quite a healthy population of birds that eat bone entirely. But you'll also have hyenas, especially if they get quite hungry and they haven't had any fresh meat for a while. They'll also go and have a bite on that bones, so they can come back and chew on it. But if just left to the conditions, I would say between 5 and 10 years, more or less, before it starts to crumble. Oh, let's have a look at these Kangoni with some zebra in the background. It's always a nice little sight, that. There we go, the Coke's Hartebeest and the Plains zebra. Now we're looking up towards the Chitwa airstrip, so that's the direction that you're looking in now, almost straight north, and wonderful to see the Coke's Hartebeest. A little bit different to the Hartebeest that we get down in Djuma, with the guys that will be joining us a little bit later, Scott and Steve. I wonder if they'll be able to show you a red Hartebeest. You'll be able to see slightly different with those horns. You see those are going out to the side and then almost straight up, whereas the red Hartebeest goes up like that, but then goes straight back. So slight difference in there. They're more or less the same size. There's almost no difference in the size between them. Slightly bigger than the topi, I would say, but almost the exact same size as a red Hartebeest. A little bit lighter in color as well, and not much contrast in their tawny to their white, whereas the red Hartebeest very quite a dark color and then almost a white rump, and you can actually see them from quite far away because of that white rump. And nice to see also different types of feeders in the same area and different digestive systems. One's a ruminant with the Hartebeest, and or the Kangoni as they call them here in Kenya, and the zebra with the hind gut fermentation. So one's pooping in tiny little pellets because of all the chewing of the cud that they do, and the other one's pooping rather large balls, if I can say. Now, CNAC, you want to know if I can show you any pictures of different species of Hartebeest. CNAC, when once we go over to Brent, I'll get some little pictures and everything for you. So I'm not going to go anywhere for now, and I'll get some pictures up and try and show you some of those different pictures. So don't go anywhere, CNAC, because as soon as in a few minutes, as soon as we come back to me, I'll show you a couple of differences of the Hartebeest, so you can see that. Lovely here, looking there. That's the Olololo escarpment in the background. And so that's also looking up towards the Chitwa timber, not only airstrip but also the lodge. Just to give you a little bit of orientation. Ooh, that was a bird, I think, that just flew right in front of the screen. So, CNAC, while I quickly just get some pictures of different Hartebeest to show you, let's head you on over to Brent, who I think wants to finish up with his quiz.
Ha 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 ha. Sounds like only 2 people got it right. And oh, there were a few others apparently came in a bit later. But 2 people were quick on the draw. I think it was Gypsy and, wait for Megan. Oh, sorry, Mary and Goofy. So, here we go. Now, there's the immature. And then when I show you the adult, everyone's going to know the African hawk eagle. So a juvenile African hawk eagle. We don't see them that often in the Mara, but we see them a lot at Djuma. There we go. One of the more beautiful eagles in my opinion, and a stunning eagle. Great hunters of guinea fowls. One of their favorite things to hunt. So unfortunately, I just chatted to Alfred, who's one of the wardens from the Mara Triangle, and he said no sign of the musketeers, but he came along the crossings. So what I think we'll do is we'll go check one of their favorite sleeping spots up around the gardenias, just up there. And then I got a message from Jamie as she went to go fetch Graham from the airstrip, and she found the Angama pride, or the Olololo pride. So what we'll do is, if we have no luck with lions here, we'll start heading our way back towards those lions, because she says they're hungry. Oof, it rained a lot more down here than it did up in the around camp this morning and last night. So a lot more rain down here. So what are we missing? We're missing from the widow birds. We're still missing. Oh, we're missing the yellow mantles and the golden bishop and the black bishop. I think those are the main ones we're missing. But we must always be very. Oh, is there a car behind us? That nearly. Woof. That was close. But they're straw-tailed widers. Well, it's the guy who's in a rush. He's going to chase my straw-tailed widers, but we will see where they land. Oh, I don't see any males, I only see females. So I know I sent Taylor down here to look for the, oh, there's the male. Okay, let's watch him carefully. Definitely one of the more stunning birds. Not a widow, but a wider. And I absolutely adore them. And I'm not going to get too close in case they fly. We'll just get a safety from here on that little bush on the left of the road there, Kruger. The straw-tailed wider. They are gorgeous birds. Look at that male, and look how long the tails have become in the last 2 weeks. So when we first saw them coming into breeding plumage, the tails were only about 5 centimeters long. They're probably close on 12 centimeters now. Okay, I'm going to try sneak a bit closer, and hopefully they don't fly too far. But definitely one of the more beautiful birds. So we see the pin-tailed widers often. Now, you do get another wider, but I haven't seen them in the Mara yet. I've actually seen them on top of the escarpment, which is the steel blue wider. Ah, you. No cars behind us, Craig, before I cause another accident. Oh no, he's gone. He is gone, skis, unfortunately, but there we go. Straw-tailed wider. Absolutely gorgeous little bird. Now let's go across to Ralph to continue a conversation about Hartebeest.
Yes, thank you, Brent. And I have just been able to get a little bit of a picture here. Now, I just want to show you on my phone, but I hope it's nice and clear for you. What you will be able to see here, I don't know if it's nice and clear. Let me just see if Adrian can get in nice and closely there. At the top, that is your red Hartebeest. Is that quite clear there, Adrian? Looks like it. And then the second one being that of the Coax Hartebeest. So you can see the difference there from the top to the middle one. So the Kangoni versus the red Hartebeest and the shape of the horns. It's not really clear there for their coloration, but the red Hartebeest being a lot darker, as the name suggests, than the Coax Hartebeest. So, CNAC, I hope that shows you a little bit, just from their horns, how different it is, and that's just on Wikipedia, so you can also have a look if you would like. It's just different Hartebeest on Wikipedia. Right, now, I think I'm going to start up and we're going to head towards the swampy area and have some fun with the slippery roads and see if we can find those lions with the little cubbies. I hear that Brent's got some intel that he might be able to find the musketeers. That would be wonderful. I haven't seen the musketeers. I also haven't seen Scar. I don't know if he's part of the musketeers or not. I'm not quite sure. But there's a few lions that I haven't seen. I've seen a lot of lions since I've been here, but there's still a lot that I haven't seen. That's what is so incredible about the Masai Mara. It seems there's just predators everywhere. And I'm thinking that what Brent has said about the hyena and taking off the elephant's tails, that's a very interesting angle, and I never thought of that. But he might actually be 100% correct, because hyenas are quite cheeky and they're not averse to taking risks, and so maybe the elephants don't quite suspect them, but maybe they've had a few goes at the little youngsters. That would make a little bit of sense, but we'd still have to find the proof. Still have to find the proof. Yes. Ooh, we've got some buffalo over there, and some more elephants coming out of the forest. Some Thompson's gazelle up in front of us. We've got some giraffe off to the left. Ooh, and look here. Look here. We've got some banded mongoose. Banded mongoose just on top of this termite mound, and for once they're not running away. Just on top of the termite mound. Sorry, I don't know if Adrian actually saw them. There they are. Adrian, that's it. As the focus comes, there he is. And it's one of the first times that these guys haven't run away from me, so I just wanted to stop here. It looks like they might have this as one of their little lairs or dens, and the wind is nicely in our favor, and it doesn't seem like they're scared. For once, they have relaxed, and they're not going to run off. So we can sit with them a little while. And I do love watching mongoose, and banded mongoose are very special. I used to spend a lot of time with them in Namibia as well, in Etosha, but there they were very habituated in the camps, and they're quite naughty there. And I've had many days of cooking food for my guests on the camping safaris that I used to do. And I used to have to keep my eyes open for these guys, because there's a lot of them that come wandering through the campsite looking for trouble, and mostly looking for food. And if anybody leaves their tents open and there's any food inside, they're in there very quickly, and they very quickly find, with their very acute sense of smell, they can find all the little tidbits, and then they get involved and steal everything. Start feeding on it. But mostly they naturally would be eating grubs and insects and all sorts. But around camps and lodges and things like that, they can become a little bit naughty. So you do need to be careful. But wonderful character. Also highly intelligent, very sociable, gregarious, and constantly communicating. When you are near them, you can always hear them doing a little kruk, 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 kruk. It's almost like a sign of you know, the coast is clear, everything's fine, because as soon as there's a predator or anything around or any kind of danger, there's little squeals, and different squeals for different kinds of predators. So a very high or intelligent form of communication as well. James, you want to know if there's only one breeding pair in a group of banded mongoose? Yeah, they are cooperative breeders. So you'll have an alpha male and female, and everybody else assisting in the continuation of that gene. So the energy put in by the other individuals is protecting their line, and normally siblings of that family group. So you generally do have an alpha male and female, and then the rest all assist in the whole breeding and reproduction process. But they still all, there's new ones poking their heads out. They do very much like sunning themselves. It is quite a cool afternoon, so they're probably also feeling a little bit cold, and that's why they can sometimes just sit out in the sun. And they do allo grooming as well, so they will clean each other and help to get rid of parasites. But they have got very sharp little claws, and they're very adept at digging as well. Sinak, you want to know, and thanks once again for your question, Sinak. You're always getting involved. Thank you for your question, and you want to know if they get worried about predators that come towards them, or if they just alarm and so on. So what happens, Sinak, is a large predator, such as a jackal, which is quite large for them, or hyenas or lions, obviously they would alarm call and they would run for cover. So they would get out of the way of those predators and normally head for cover into little holes like this, where the bigger predator wouldn't be able to get into. Their biggest threat comes mainly from the sky, which is the raptors. So any of the eagles would very easily take one of them, and they would just swoop down and take them. So you've often got little sentries that are looking out while the others are foraging. There's always one of them standing on his back legs or on a high position looking out for the rest. Another one that can obviously be a problem is snakes, but they're also very adept at killing snakes as well. So they will attack some of the predators that could be a predator of theirs, but they can actually turn the tables on them. So their biggest enemy or their biggest predator would be that from the sky. And that's when they do need to alarm call and let everybody else know that there's incoming problems from the sky, and then they would make for their termite mound or their den or any hole that they could come across, and they would scoot down there as quickly as possible and get out of harm's way. But as a group, safety in numbers, they do very well, and it's almost like the tables have turned here in the Masai Mara. There in Djuma, the predominant mongoose that we see is the dwarf mongoose, and we see the odd banded mongoose. But here in the Masai Mara, did I say Masai Mara with the earlier one? Djuma, with the banded, the dwarf mongoose. Here is the banded, and a lot less dwarf mongoose here. Now, everybody, it's been wonderful watching these. I might stay here a little bit longer, but while we do that, let's send you all the way down south to South Africa and say hello to Steve.
Good afternoon and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I have got Seb on camera, and we have managed to come across the lovely spotted hyena. We are here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, and the hyena, we're not sure exactly, but they have got some bones. We're thinking they possibly stole it or took it from the lions, that zebra carcass, and they've actually brought it down to the pan. The one in the water is actually washing it for some very strange reason. He's got he has got the bones in the water, has just submerged it, and I don't know what it's doing. It took what looked like a hip or a pelvic girdle into the water, and it is gone now. Not great for the cleanliness of the water, I'll tell you what. But these hyena, there's a few of them. There's at least 5 in the area, and they've all got little bits and pieces of bones left over, potentially the ones the lions were not able to break open. And there the hyena, not a threat to the white-back vulture. There in front of it is the white-headed, not the white-headed, the hooded vulture. They're not too bothered by hyenas. They wouldn't get too close to lions or leopards, that's for sure. Wonderful specimen there, is it not? Aren't you pretty? I think only its mother can tell it that. Quite a sharp, narrow beak. The hooded vultures are generally the first vultures you find near a carcass or near a dead animal. And they are, to me, the most reliable vulture species. If you are looking for vultures, you're looking for a kill, look for them, and they will tell you exactly where they are. It is a lovely afternoon. There is a nice breeze coming in from the east. The hyenas were swimming just before, at least one of them was. Yes, Lily. We find hyenas interesting. They are extremely interesting. And please, folks, on that note, hashtag Safari Live for your comments and questions. Follow us on the YouTube stream. Send through anything you have. This is marvelous behavior we have here. The hyenas have waited for almost 3 days for the remains of this carcass, and they are now making good use of it. Isn't that a wonderful picture? Can you imagine 3-day-old zebra that's been sitting in the sun and half chewed by lions? Fantastic. A little bit of vocalizing from the one going off on my right here. Very gentle. This one just here, Seb. Just making a typical low little moaning sound. The hyena it's walking towards is actually looked like, when we drove past, it looked like it was feeding on the zebra's head itself. It's going there. We're going to stay here with these individuals and see what fantastic stuff comes about. Scott has been busy today with the remodeling of Ronald the Rover Mach 2, and so we're going to be deploying him shortly. But while we do so, Scott is also out and mobile this afternoon, and let's go over to him to say hello.
Hello everybody, welcome on board with myself and VM on camera. I thought it would make sense for us to go and check in on the third and final predator that's been involved in the kind of saga over the last 24 hours involving that zebra that those hyena are gnawing on and that the vultures are eagerly awaiting any scraps thereof. So I thought, let's just head back to where the kill was. Clearly the hyenas managed to get some of it, but maybe the lions came charging back in and managed to secure whatever remained of the carcass. Time will tell. It's just a few 20 seconds or so up ahead under one of these shady bushes. So that's our plan. We're going to head across there, and if we don't find the lions there, I guess we'll try and track them down, work out a plan with Steve to best try and establish where they've gone. Now, doesn't look promising at the outset. Can't see any lions underneath this tree, and it's just underneath this shady tree over here where the carcass was this morning. And it looks like everything has been taken. Not even a scrap of a zebra left in there. That's where the carcass was. Isn't it fascinating how where there was so many bones and so much hide and blood and guts, when you look there now it looks like nothing really happened. Wonderful. So we're going to try and work out where the lions are gone. If we don't have any luck with them, hopefully we'll be able to find Tundi and her cub, a leopardess, a bit later on. But for now, we are going to be sending you back to Brent in Kenya.
Well, thank you to the bearded wonder, Scott Dyson. Hopefully Scotty has a bit more luck than I've had this afternoon. We've checked the normal spots for the musketeer boys, the lions, not the cheetahs of course, and unfortunately no luck. But the one thing I have been finding a lot of over the last week or so is secretary bird nests. And there's another very prominent nest over here. So I got asked a few days ago why we aren't seeing secretary birds as much. And that's because they're busy feeding babies and stuff, so they're spending more time closer to their nesting areas. And I think I now know of about 14 different secretary bird nests in the Mara Triangle alone. So there we go. If you look carefully, it looks like there's a baby just below moving. Just to the left of the adult standing up. There we go, you can just see the movement. Now I don't want to get too close because we don't want to disturb them while they're on the nest, but that's why we're not seeing secretary birds walking around as much at the moment. It is because they are currently nesting. So as I say, I've counted 14 different nests in the Mara Triangle alone, and there are 5 actually from here to the end of the triangle around Olololo Gate, and there are a lot down towards the Tanzanian border. So quite exciting, and I've been keeping a check on them. And this one, the last time I was here, there was no sign of a baby, so that means they must have hatched in the last couple of days. So very exciting, and it's going to be wonderful to see juvenile secretary birds wandering about. Now, I'm on a mission to see baby birds this year, and I've been so lucky since I've been back from leave. We had tiny crown crane chicks, we've had medium crown crane chicks, but for me the best sighting was of those tiny Cory bustard chicks while Mom was stamping on insects and feeding them as she walked through. Oof, we've got some proper grumpy East African buffalo giving us that look. What are you looking at? See all the mud on their horns? Now, with the topi will often put mud on their horns to make themselves look more impressive during the rut. Now, if you look carefully where the mud on that buffalo's horns are, on the bottom side of the arch there, it means he's been lying on his side with his head resting in the mud. He hasn't been beautifying himself. He's been using the mud to keep the insects at bay and to keep cool. We're not that disturbing because he's still trying to finish his mouthful of grass. Now, I'd say the reason they're suddenly a little bit more jumpy than normal is because a strong wind has just picked up. And I wonder if they can smell lions somewhere in the swampy area, which I'm not going to risk, because going into that area at this time of the year is almost guaranteed Marshmallow Club territory. Here we go, off you go, buffalo. You can see we're quite lucky today. It seems the big storms are falling around double crossing Talek on the other side of the river, and for once it looks like we might not got wet this afternoon. But while I head towards the last, charging impala, stop quickly. And he's obviously just charging after his ladies, not at us. But as we carry on, we're going to go across to Ralph, see what he's up to. We're going to head towards the Angama or Olololo Pride to see if they're on the hunt.
Thanks, Brent, and well, everybody, you know, we must never forget that impala, as much as we see a lot of them, they are still wonderful animals and very successful because of their different survival tactics. One of them being that if they are approached by predators, they will bombshell. So that term used for everybody going in a different direction, making it quite difficult for the predator to pick one out in particular. And so then that is the theory also behind the metatarsal gland, which is that very black marking on their back legs right down near to the hooves. And it is very particular of impala, right down at the bottom. Those very black dots there, that's it is black hair, but it also surrounds their metatarsal gland. And when they bombshell, you'll see them, you know, impala do what is called stotting, where they jump from their front legs onto their back legs, a little bit different to what springbok do, which is called pronking. But when they bombshell, you'll see that they kick out their back legs very clearly. And the theory is that they flexing that gland on the back legs, and then it does leave a bit of a scent trail for the others to be able to follow. So that is quite particular. They also do practice allo grooming, where they'll groom each other and help rid themselves of parasites. One of the other angles is also that they, and especially not here in the Masai Mara, I hear that they drop their young at the same time. But here in the Masai Mara, it seems like the impala drop almost year round, and it's not all synchronized like it is in the Djuma area. Mary, thank you for your comment, saying that such pretty colours, you love them. Well, I do too. And look there in the background, there's a warthog just grazing in amongst them as well, with, I believe, a hamakop. Oh, there's a pair of hamakops. And there's a young little male impala in the foreground, and you see how the warthog go on their hocks and lean down like that. Makes for much easier grazing. But look how the hamakops are also in between them. So this we would call an aggregation, lots of different species of animals, normally coming together so that they've got more eyes and ears, and evasion of predators is obviously a very high priority. And a lot of animals actually try to hang around impala because they are so alert, very good hearing, very good eyesight, and very good smell. And they're normally in quite large numbers, so there's lots of eyes and ears and noses to be able to pick up predators. And so the other animals, such as warthogs, can carry on grazing quite happily with the impala keeping the lookout for them. And you often find baboons doing exactly that, and they've formed quite a nice relationship between impala and baboons, because the baboons very often up in the trees, or at least one or two of them, and the impala on the ground. So quite a formidable combination in terms of evasion of predators, except when there is a very lack of resources. Then you do find that every now and then a baboon will take a little baby impala and eat it, and so that's when they could be a little bit of enemies, but generally they work together. So talking about predators and prey, we're going to send you all the way back down south once again to South Africa, but it seems that they've got their little gremlins showing up there, so we're not going to go anywhere just yet. I think we're going to just stay looking at these guys, and we do have some waterbuck also that are just relaxing, as their namesake suggests, just next to the water. But like I've mentioned before, that male's got quite a lovely set of horns on him as well. I have mentioned before that waterbuck, yes, it is quite a good name for them because they are regularly associated with water, but the two species that are more so would be better for them to be called waterbuck would be lechwe or sitatunga, because you find them grazing inside the water a lot more than waterbuck. So a little bit of a mix-up of the names, I would say, but they are wonderful animals. Alright, it seems like the gremlins down south have been chased away, and we were speaking of predators and prey, and Steve down in South Africa has got some hyena.
And yes, folks, we are back with the hyena. We've been trying to get Ronald to do his part, and he got right in there, and the hyenas aren't too bothered. We just had a bit of a smudge on the screen we've had to take care of, but there they are. Dog to me, not that they are dogs, but have you ever seen an animal drink like that before? That is quite strange. I must admit that's the first time I've seen a hyena drink. I've seen them sitting in water. We haven't seen the pelvic bone that one buried out in the water come up yet. I wonder what's going on with that. Maybe he dropped it in there and can't see it again. Uh-oh, the lovely cackle of the hyena. Senak asks if hyenas will bury their food from vultures. I've never heard of it. I know that they basically spend their time feeding on it, and once it's done, they walk away. They might often leave some bones behind, but once they've broken in and gotten the good marrow out and all the goodness, they often leave bones where they left them. That one looks like it might be searching for its long-lost pelvic girdle. I'm not quite sure. It's hard to tell which one of these actually was in the water before. There we go. Look what I found. No idea why it would have done that. Maybe it wanted to clean off some parasites. Maybe there was some maggots on the form of there. Quite clever behavior if that's the case. And he's buried it in the water again. Absolutely bizarre. And how it found it again, it must have smelt it. Okay, folks, well, we're going to stay with these hyena for a while longer and see what they get up to. And in the meantime, we're going to be going up to Mr. Brent Leo Smith up in the Mara, who's just bumbling.
Because it's not wild dogs we're after, we're heading for lions, so there's generally no need to rush, because they are lions of leisure. But apologies, it seems like we are having some technical difficulties this afternoon. Remember, we are coming to you live from two of the most iconic African locations, the Greater Kruger National Park and the Masai Mara in Kenya and South Africa respectively. So bear with us while we try to sort those problems out. Okay. So I'm going to take quite a different route. Last time I came down along the river, I'm going to take the shortcut. Diana, says I was chatting about extinct antelope and oryx extinct in the wild. No, not at all. There are many different types of oryx. So the gemsbok, which occurs in the arid areas of southern Africa, Botswana, South Africa, eastern Zimbabwe, into Namibia and southern Angola, are very, very happy and not nearly extinct. The Bisa oryx, which occurs from the Masai steppe in Tanzania up through the arid areas of Kenya into Somalia and the bottom end of Ethiopia, also no problem whatever. I think you might be talking about an addax. An addax is a desert antelope that is almost extinct in the wild. The only safe populations of addax are in captivity. And there is also, I'm trying to remember its name now, I've gone completely blank, another oryx species which is highly, highly threatened from the desert areas. But the most endangered antelope in Africa all belong to the desert species that live in the Sahara. I think, what is it called? It's a gazelle. Is it Sumering's gazelle? I think is possibly one of the most endangered antelope species in the world, and they have been overhunted over many years, and they are a desert species that need a massive area due to the lack of food in the desert and water, and they're moving. I think it's Sumering's gazelle. I might be wrong. Whoa! Someone not checking their rearview mirrors. I don't have any, so I have an excuse. Oh, it sounds like the bearded wonder. Scott Dyson has found something that is big and smelly and feline.
Bearded wonder. Thanks, Brent. That's an interesting one. Haven't been called that before by him. And we've managed to find the lions. Awesome, awesome stuff. But interestingly, Amber Eyes is missing. So it's just the mother and the little cub. And the mother's now just let out a vocalization. Ooh, ooh. Trying to find out where this other lioness has gone, obviously. So who knows why they would have split up. They have had a few of their own internal issues over the last kind of 48 hours that we've been viewing them. A little bit of fighting and snarling over the kill. Who knows, possibly during a hyena skirmish, if those hyenas came in and threw the lions, then what may have happened is this lioness may have done a runner with the cub and made sure she got her cub into a safe spot and didn't really worry too much about where Amber Eyes went, who wouldn't have been in the same kind of predicaments as this lioness and her cub. Let's just keep moving and try and catch up with them. We should be able to get ahead of them and hopefully have them walking back to us. Good stuff. Now, what's going to be wonderful is if they do actually manage to find this other lioness, which they should with relative ease. Maybe they've already heard her calls and are heading towards her. Now, this is interesting, and thanks for those of you who sent back through feedback regarding the dam cam, and you just saw Amber Eyes feed there all on her own. Well, not feed, have a drink there, all on her own. Let's just stop here. It looks like they've changed directions, so we should be able to get some good views. Clearly I'm having trouble adjusting to Rusty, this vehicle that I'm in. I've been on Jigger since I've been back, and they all kind of operate slightly differently. Okay, so I mean, I guess the fact that Amber Eyes headed to the waterhole for a drink, it looks like these guys may have had a drink at a small little puddle behind us. We're on Ingwe Alley here, and we had their tracks coming down kind of south, away from the kill, as opposed to east, where Amber Eyes would have headed in order to get to the Vuyatela Dam, where you guys saw it on the dam cam. And on the trajectory that they're heading on now, it's kind of back towards the Vuyatela Dam, so I think they will be able to reunite without too much difficulty. So interesting to have lions on the move at this time of the day. It's the last thing I would have predicted. And I guess there's always a lesson. It's a lesson we often get reminded of out here, is that we can only try and predict what these animals are going to get up to, but they very often prove us wrong. Okay, here's a nice little open section. We'll be able to race ahead, and then I'll let VM work his magic as they continue towards us. Tom, you've noticed that the cub's looking much better after it's had a meal, and I agree with you. It's amazing how with just a little bit of extra food and nutrition, their condition and health alters greatly. And who knows when last this cub did have a decent meal. A lot of the time it'll have a lot of competition with the rest of the pride. There's about, I think, 10 other cubs that it'll be competing with when it is with the rest of the pride. So it is probably at the bottom of the Nkuhuma food chain. And now we're going to hopefully get some great views as they continue on towards us in this golden afternoon sun. So even the lions have a trick here. It's very often to just kind of forget that even though they are the apex predator out here, they too have their issues, and you know, just the fact that this cub isn't looking as healthy as it could be is testament to that. How lucky are we? They're coming straight past us. I'm going to be very interested to see how long they move for, because it's incredibly hot. They're full-bellied and probably fairly uncomfortable after feeding on a zebra for the last 48 hours or so. Oh, wonderful. It looks like we're going to have to reposition again. Great. Well, as we get you guys into hopefully another good spot to see them, we are going to send you back to Steve, who's still with the hyena.
Hello, hello. Spots indeed, Scott. We have got a hyena right by Ronald. He's very interested with his wet muzzle. We don't want him to bite it, so I just have to move him slightly, because one little bite will hurt. One little bite will hurt. We're right down by the... Ooh, the hyena is coming right up to Ronald. What is he doing? There he goes. They're having a swim, folks. This is what we'd all like to be doing this time of day. And they are playing with their food as well. I've never seen this behavior before. I wonder if Scotty's seen this before. It'd be interesting to note, because it's been in the water, hasn't been feeding on that bone, it's just been chewing, or I mean swimming with it and dumping it in the water. So I'm not quite sure exactly what is going on, but he's definitely not sharing it with their comrade. And there they go. So Scott reckons Amber Eyes was down here by the water earlier. These hyenas have been very skittish. Any sort of sound or movement and they get up and run away. and that's been happening repeatedly since we've been here. So it probably was amber eyes here earlier, and what I saw yesterday is they were very, very worried about her, and she did not give an inch on them. So you can see on the camera there, those hyenas there with their bones. And there's a hyena to the left further back there, Seb. I don't know. It's busy eyeing out some impala in the distance. But the impala are looking straight at the hyena. Scarlett asks, do we see hyenas often? I don't see them very often, but every single night they come either into our camp or past our camp, depending on whether we've closed the fences. But yes, we have the tracks every single day on pretty much every road we traverse. So these are very mobile animals. They cover probably the entire Sabi Sands or their territories every single night repeatedly. And yeah, I don't see them very often, but obviously the last 2.5 days we've seen them almost constantly as they hang around waiting for the scraps at the lion's dinner table. And all we saw them here with was some bones, a head, and a zebra leg, which was just a hoof and some skin. So I don't think they did very well out of that. But we do see them quite regularly on the dam cam. And, well, I don't because I'm not always watching. But the hyenas are mobile all the time. And we have tracks coming in and out of our camp, definitely past the fence every single morning. The characteristic weird step that the hyena has. We're always seeing it when we're looking for our leopard or lion tracks. And just like that, they're all out of the swimming pool